Hello everyone, this past Wednesday, Kamala Harris sat down with Fox News' Bret Baier for an extended interview. Now, Kamala Harris is not as well known as Donald Trump, of course, so the American people got to see, for the first time in a while, someone who they don't know very well, and someone who, for the first time in this election season, since she's become the Democratic nominee, has been pressed to answer some questions. How did she do? What did she say? And what do I think? We'll find out next, because Government It starts right now. Hello Raindrops, welcome back to Government Minute, Minutes That Matter. This is Mr. A joining you for another exciting edition of Government Minute. We got a lot to do today. We're going to go over the interview of Kamala Harris with Fox News' Bret Baier on Wednesday, October 16th. There's a lot in there, so let's get started. But as usual, as always, this video is dedicated to the glory of God who blessed this land. All right, so Bret Baier got right to it, bringing up immigration, a very hot topic in our country today among voters of both parties, and members of both parties' constituents know that we have an issue with immigration. Bret Baier talked about how immigrants from 150 countries are coming into this country, and he asked Vice President Harris, does she know how many immigrants have been released, not gotten through without being detected, but picked up, captured, and released into the country? He asked, 1 million, 3 million, can you take a guess? She would not take a guess. She said, Bret, we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired. Listen, Madam Vice President, we have laws on the books that already take care of the problem. The issue is they are not being enforced. So the issue is follow the law that already is on the books and take care of the problem instead of making it worse by capturing the people coming in illegally and then releasing them out into the community. Military-age men, young men, men who have gone on to commit heinous crimes against American citizens, including the deaths of at least 3 women. And so the number of immigrants that Vice President Harris did not take a guess at have been released into this country. Department of Homeland Security, according to Bret Baier, has estimated 6 million immigrants have been caught and released into this country. Does that sound like a plan to you? So he goes on to talk about how at the very beginning of the administration, January 20th, 2021, Biden and Harris take the oath of office and pretty much starts reversing Trump policies of remain in Mexico, where immigrants had to stay there until their court case came up. But instead, they rescinded that or got rid of that, and they had to, they basically went to catch and release. That's fine for fishing, but not for the laws and sanctity of our borders. Bret Baier goes on to name the bill that they introduced to Congress hours after they took the oath of office, according to Vice President Harris. The U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021. Mr. Baier referred to that as a pathway to citizenship. And at that time, the Democrats controlled the White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. And yet that bill was not brought up for a vote at that time. And so you have to wonder how serious the Democrats were about fixing this problem. Now, the question comes up, and it has to be asked, why would Kamala Harris go to an unfriendly interviewer when she's been doing softball interviews the whole time since she's become the presidential nominee for the Democrats? Well, she hasn't done that many interviews to begin with, and those that she has done were The View, Stephen Colbert, etc., that type of thing, that fluff, that drivel. And so she finally goes into enemy territory. Why? Desperation. That's about the only reason she would do this, is because she is floundering. There are reports out that Mark Halpern, formerly of ABC News, has seen internal polling that shows that Kamala Harris is in real trouble. And she felt like she had to make a Hail Mary pass, try to score, and that's why she went on Fox News, because she's not doing well according to all reports. The momentum seems to be on President Trump's side, and she went into her lion's den to try to score some points, and she turned into a little child. Quite often in the interview, Bret Baier asks her questions, and she goes on to say, well, President Trump did this and did that, and he's been running for office. Madam Vice President, you are in charge. You and that potato, Joe Biden, are in charge right now. The last 3.5 years, you cannot blame on anyone else but yourself. Look in the mirror, take stock of yourself, and pay attention, take responsibility for what you've done. She says we're focusing on fixing the problem of immigration. Why has it been made so much worse? Okay, if you have a leak in a pipe, do you turn up the water pressure or do you turn off the water pressure? That border should have been sealed as it was when they took office, should have been sealed airtight or person tight, so that we can fix the problem, turn off the spigot, stop what's going on, and figure out how to get to the next step. But no, they did the opposite. They basically opened up the border. There are people from 150 countries now. I don't have that many fingers, but I don't think there's 150 countries in Central and South America. So where else are they coming from? Probably places that aren't too friendly with us. So you got to be careful when they say, oh, this is a humanitarian thing. There are people, most likely, who are coming in who don't just want to work. There are people dealing drugs and trafficking people and trafficking stolen goods and trafficking all sorts of things that are not good for this country. And Biden and Harris, who have been in charge for the last 3.5 years, don't seem to care. This is an airhead sounding more airhead than normal. Every time Bret Baier asks her a question, by the way, we'll have a link to the video in the description so you can check it out yourself. But every time he asks her a question, she does not answer the question. So Bret Baier goes on to tell Vice President Harris that these 3 young ladies, Jocelyn Nungary, Rachel Morin, and Laken Riley, were killed by some of these animals that were released by the Biden-Harris administration. They were released at the very beginning of their term of office, and they went on to assault and kill these 3 young ladies. Even Bill Clinton, campaigning for Kamala Harris, well, with friends like these, said if these men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably wouldn't have been killed. Like a broken clock, Bill Clinton's right twice a day, and this is one of them. Okay, had these men been vetted properly, Laken Riley most likely would still be here today. And then, so Bret Baier asked, do you owe these families an apology? She says, these are tragic cases. I can't imagine the pain the families have gone through for a loss that, in her words, should not have occurred. Well, there's the broken clock right again. You're right about that, Vice President Harris, but it's your fault. You and that potato, it's your fault. You said on The View that you have been a part of the decisions, of the major decisions that have had an impact on this country in the last 3.5 years. You've been part of the decision-making process, and you couldn't think of anything, when asked, that you would have done differently over the past 3.5 years. So you were okay with these men, these animals, these disgusting pigs being released into the American public and killing 3 of our citizens. Congratulations, Vice President Harris. You have blood on your hands. So Bret Baier asks again, do you owe these families an apology? The families whose daughters and sisters and moms or whatever were killed by these people caught and released into the general public. And don't let Vice President Harris fool you. If you watch this interview, words mean things. If you don't believe me, there's a whole book dedicated to it. It's called a dictionary. Okay? And she says, when he asked, do you owe them an apology? She says, I'm sorry for their loss. Well, I would hope so. The question was, do you owe them an apology for letting these animals out into the public to do harm to American citizens? And she totally ignored that question, just like she ignored just about every question Bret Baier asked her. He did tell Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, that the Border Patrol Union did support a bill she was talking about, but they just endorsed Donald Trump for president. The Border Patrol Union just endorsed Donald Trump for president, saying that Vice President Harris has been, quote, a failure with border security. So the people on the ground, the people that know what's going on, the people that see it day by day by day, know the truth and know that when Donald Trump was president, things were better. When this woman was put in charge of researching the causes of the problem at the border, in other words, the borders are, she failed miserably. So Bret Baier points out to Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, that when she was running for president in 2019, before Joe Biden ended up winning the nomination in 2020, that she supported illegals being able to apply for driver's licenses, to qualify for free tuition at universities, and to enroll in free health care. He asked her, do you still support that? Now, she was very sly and coy with her answer. She said, that was 5 years ago, and as vice president, I've been very clear that I will follow the law. Okay, you don't have much of a choice when it's the law. You are advocating for changing the law. He goes on to point out that her vice presidential pick, the very first indicator of how she's going to make decisions, Tim Walz of Minnesota, the governor of Minnesota, signed into law those very things that she says that was 5 years ago. So I believe she still wants that. She still believes that, but she was coy and very sly about saying, I will follow the law. Yes, okay, you don't have much of a choice, but you are advocating to change the law, so don't try to get smart. So Bret Baier goes on to ask Vice President Harris about something that she advocated for. Shows a commercial put out by the Trump campaign, but it's a video of her, a clip of her in an interview saying that every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access to transgender care, transgender surgery, paid for by taxpayers. And Bret Baier asked, do you still support that? And she answers, again, by not answering, she says, I will follow the law. Of course you will. Do you still support that notion, though? She would not answer the question. She said again, I will follow the law. She says this is not the biggest issue facing the American people. This is an issue that is quite remote, her words. Well, but this gives us an indication of your beliefs of what government should do. Now government should take everyone who thinks even momentarily that they should be a different gender and pay for that, especially when they're prisoners. Hey, you have money and you want to go under the knife, have at it. Okay, adults only. But when you ask me to pick up the tab, you to pick up the tab, I think we should have a conversation about that. And people in power, like Vice President Harris, should not just say we should do this and then work to change the law. So Vice President Harris goes on to talk about her economic plan to help with housing, a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time homebuyers. Where's that money coming from? For small businesses, a $50,000 tax deduction for people starting small businesses. And she talks about the scarcity of housing. When you add at least 6 million people, those are the ones that were caught and released, into the pool of people wanting to rent housing, apartments, etc., the supply is pretty static. And when you add that many more renters, price goes up. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, research supply and demand, you'll get it. And so she talks about that her economic plan has been reviewed by Goldman Sachs, by Moody's, and the Wall Street Journal. These are the same people that for the last 40, 50, 60 years have gotten us into the mess we're in now. These are the people who think that all government spending is good, that all government spending is noble. Government spending is taking money out of your wallet and my wallet at the point of a gun and giving it to someone else. There are very few things in the Constitution that are allowed by the Constitution. Okay, those are the only things, barring an amendment to the Constitution, that we should be doing. So all this feel good and this oh, let's help. I have nothing against helping people when it's voluntary, not when government says you have to give me money so I can give it to this other person. That's not compassion. That's coercion. And so Mr. Baier asks, why do more people trust Donald Trump on the economy instead of you? And she didn't answer. She did not answer that question. She had nothing to say about that because there is nothing to say about that. because when he was in office, Americans were better off financially, economically, and more people had better take-home pay. All minority groups had better employment numbers, rising paychecks. She can't answer the question, and so she didn't. She also didn't answer when he asked, what would you do differently? She talks about turning the page. Well, the page has been on their book for 3.5 years. And he asked, what would you do differently? And she still didn't answer the question because she has no ideas. She says, we'll work on the supply of housing. How is that going to work? When was the last time government did anything? Oh, are we going to build tenement houses for everyone? Public housing like they had in Chicago and all the big cities so that people can have places to live? Fine places to live. Aren't they? Government housing does such a fine job of housing people. That's her plan. He went on to say that 79%, she kept talking about Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that, who hasn't been in office in 3.5 years. But he's been running. That's what she said. He's been running. And so all this is his fault. He said a poll taken October 1st through 10th showed that 79% of respondents felt that the country was on the wrong track. And the track has been going through 3.5 years of the Biden-Harris administration. And she blamed it that Donald Trump has been running for office. So Bret Baier goes on to ask her, Madam Vice President, if Donald Trump is so bad, if Donald Trump is, as you say, this bad guy and he's demeaning people and he's talking down to people and he doesn't have a plan, his plan is bad for the country, why do 50% of the American people basically support him? Are they misguided? Are they stupid? Oh, and she was indignant. Oh, I'd never say that about the American people. He's the one who says that. Look up the quote where she said about 18 to 24-year-olds. I know my channel skews a little older, but if you have kids or grandkids 18 to 24, show them this. Find it and show them this. I'll try to find a link to it. 18 to 24-year-olds. She goes, what do we know about 18 to 24-year-olds? She said, they're stupid. I saw the clip earlier. She said it about 18 to 24-year-olds. So she's the one who thinks the American people are stupid. Donald Trump, for the most part, again, I don't agree with 100% of everything he says, with 100% of everything he does. But for the most part, he is closer to the original intent of the Constitution than she is. He is more for Americans taking care of themselves than she is. He is more about free enterprise and the capitalist system taking care of problems than she is. Her solution is government, government, government. When was the last time you were satisfied with any government service or product? So Bret Baier asked Vice President Harris that Joe Biden, she had said that Joe Biden was on his game and he could run circles around members of his staff. And he asked, in 3.5 years, did you not notice any slippage in Joe Biden and his mental faculties? And did she answer, everyone knows the answer to this, no, she didn't. She said, he's not on the ballot. He's not on the ballot. So I don't have to answer the question, is basically what she was saying. He said, you met with him at least one time a week for 3.5 years and you didn't notice anything? And she didn't answer again. And she just said, Donald Trump is on the ballot. And so, Vice President Harris, we're asking about your judgment. That basically covered most of the interview. Obviously, there's more to it. It was a almost 27-minute video. If you want to go see it, there'll be a link in the description so you can check it out. There will be a link in the description about her comments about 18 to 24-year-olds being stupid as well. But I urge you to check it out yourself. Basically, that was the end of it. And what this showed me, what this showed the American people, is that Kamala Harris shouldn't be anywhere near the Oval Office. She shouldn't be near a school board because she did not answer questions. She would not take responsibility for the last 3.5 years. And part of being a leader is saying, hey, yes, this happened. I was wrong. We did it, and we're going to fix it. She would not answer a question. She would not take responsibility, and she would not do anything except turn into a little kid. He did it too. He did it too. And I'm sorry, that's not going to fly for the highest office in this land. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you paid attention because there will be a test on November 5th. Do your duty. Vote. This is Mr. A reminding you that we, the people, are the government. We'll see you next time.